You have three options for a solution to Project 6B. One is to create a surreal image. This should be a scene that looks like a photograph and could be real, but there's just some things in it that don't actually happen in reality. It shouldn't be too far-fetched. I'm not looking for the cover of a science fiction magazine, but just something that most people would look at it and say, well, that's a photograph, but wait, what's happening there? The second option is that you assemble a realistic-looking photographic image that is not surreal using either photographs that are provided or photographs that you find yourself. And the third option is to do something based on the images in Elgin Park, which is an imaginary town that was created by a retired photographer who collected high-quality 1/24th scale model cars and then built little scenes in which to photograph them. So this is a quick look at the Elgin Park group. These are fans of Michael Paul Smith who took images that he created and added themselves or other people or things to the images. I provide a link for this. There used to be a lot more photos here, but with changes in Flickr, a lot of people and their images left. So let's take a look at the photo pool. Some of these are images that other people have photographed to provide an opportunity for manipulation. If you get down to here, this is an example of how these photos are created. This is actually by someone other than the original creator. And you can see that there's a model and model cars, and they're placed out in a natural scene and then photographed in a way that looks like it's really there. These are model cars with models of houses set up outside. So the background is natural. It's photographed in daylight, so it's natural lighting, but none of the stuff in the foreground is actually real. There's another example. Again, this is a model building and the background is natural. This is one of his scenes where someone added people and then did kind of a watercolor effect on it. So it looks like something you might have seen in the 1950s in a child's reading book or other children's literature. I'd rather you not use any watercolor effects. I'd like to see just a good quality photographic image. I don't know that I would use this one. It's just too plain. This is kind of interesting, but you would have to match the nighttime lighting. Likewise that. Here's another one where these are model cars. Those are real houses. The model cars are sitting on a table with something that looks like a street. The figures are probably illustrations lifted from a period magazine or children's book, so that's why watercolor effect was used to camouflage the addition of non-photographic elements. Same with this one. This one's not too good. This one would be really hard to work with. There's not much you can do with that, I don't think. I'm going to skip over those. That one's not very good. They like to make fake photographs. I don't know if I would do that either, but that's a fake photo using one of Michael Paul Smith's model photos, and not that interesting. This one's kind of nicely done, where I'm not sure what that figure is, but he's not real, and that is a model car, and this is all model background. This is Michael Paul Smith and Teresa Thompson, who created this image. They became friends based on his image work, and she was one of the first to do a lot of manipulation of his images, putting herself into scenes. Here's a model setup. This is some of the stuff he made. This is the actual photo of Teresa and Michael that was put into the image, and this is a bit about how these things were created. That, I think, is an actual photograph of a car. I'm going to skip some of these. Christmas card thing that's done as a watercolor. Don't do that. I don't want to see watercolors. I want to see an actual quality image. This might have been a lot better if, when they put Edward Hopper's Nighthawks into the scene, they had actually rebuilt the missing part of the sign that you don't actually see in the painting. Without that, it looks unfinished. Again, some of these as watercolors are fine, but I don't want to see a watercolor effect applied to the photograph. I want to see an actual good quality photograph with good quality editing, adding figures or people or objects or cats or dogs into the scene. This is Michael Paul Smith. One of those is added into an actual photograph. These people are 20th century and not really here, late 20th century. The background was shot in probably the 1920s. They like to make fake things for the town, but that would be for a type class, not for a design class. This is a park scene. These are model cars. That's model bench. And the actual background was a woodland scene near the town that he lived in. And then these people are added in. And this also has, I think, kind of a watercolor effect. Again, I'd rather not see that. That one, again, watercolor effect. Night scene. Here's a street scene. This is probably the one that was, let's see, green and white Ford in the background, pink and black Chevy. It's a similar shot, but it's the same setup that was used for that other scene. So this is what it actually looks like as a photograph. And if you use that, I'd like to see good quality people or dogs or something put into the scene. Again, watercolor effect, watercolor effect. This is an example of really bad image manipulation. She is obviously much lower resolution than the scene behind her. So she's soft and pixely looking, blurred pixel looking, and badly cut out and put into a very sharp scene. So that doesn't work for me. This works better, but he is actually a little sharper than the background, which might happen with the depth of field of the camera, but his contrast is a little higher than the background. So that's a little peculiar. Blurred, no. Here's Teresa having a picnic. Again, this is a model car and a trailer that Mr. Smith built from scratch, photographed in his town against a tree background. And Teresa's added herself in at a picnic, and there's an unwanted guest. Again, same setup. This is a toy store that's built for his models and a model car. And this is one of the fans that's placed himself into the picture. And notice that he is edge lit. So he is lit from the light coming out of the toy store, even though he's not really there. Postcard scene. There's a black and white of a photographer by the used car lot. Again, these are all model cars. These are fake buildings, and that's a person who's been put into the scene, and that looks pretty good. But probably the easiest thing you can do is put yourself into a night scene backlit if it matches the lighting of the scene. The daytime one's a little harder. This is a fake 35mm frame based on one of his images. These are houses that are in his town. The greenhouse in the foreground is a model. The crab and the person on the porch have been added in, and that's a model car. I'd stay away from the black and white stuff. I want to see good quality color, and you have to change the color of something in the image. So in a black and white, that would be kind of pointless. This is a diner that he built. So this is a 1/24th scale diner. Those coffee pots are actually probably marbles, clear glass marbles. And the figure that has been put in doesn't really look like she's there. I'm not sure she's quite the right scale. She is too sharp compared to the scene, so it doesn't quite work for me. This is Teresa, and Teresa usually does real well. So she's sitting on a model car, and the cars and the pavement and the fence, these are all models photographed out in Mr. Smith's town. So that's an actual background, but everything else is fake. And then she's added herself in sitting on the car, believably. These, I think, are Christmas or Halloween images. They like to do Halloween images. I'd rather not see any Halloween images if they're too fake looking. This looks fairly realistic, but again, model house, model car, real people added in. Again, Halloween, let's not. Fake newspapers. Again, this is more of a typography project than a design lab project, so don't give me any fake newspapers. Fake book covers. This is a scene that he shot with his model cars. Someone made a book cover out of it looking like a 50s book cover, all dilapidated. The only problem is that this typeface, which is Helvetica, did not exist before 1957. So it's a little strange to see that on a late 40s or early 50s book cover. Fake postcard made from one of his scenes. Again, I want to see quality images rather than distressed images. This is Teresa at the beach with model cars again. There's a shady looking figure in the foreground. Again, rather not see black and white, want to see color. That's Teresa. This is a watercolor effect. Again, I don't want to see that. It's interesting. You can try those filters out for your own amusement, but what I want to see is a quality photo. This one's pretty good. Again, this is that same model house, a couple of model cars, a real background with a real bridge and real trees, and the house is sitting with its grass and sidewalk and all that. That's all model stuff sitting on a table, and there is one figure added in. That's the photo that was used for one of the murder mystery book covers. And these are model cars. That's a real person who has been added in such a way that his lighting agrees with the rest of the scene. Here's Teresa with her prize potato. Same house. There's Teresa. And I have no idea what that's all about. They like to write little stories about these things. These are ABC news anchors who did a story on Elgin Park, so someone put them into Elgin Park for their story. All of this stuff is models. The trees in the background are real. There's a reporter, 1950s camera, 1950s model cars, model house, real background, real person added in. I'm not sure that his lighting agrees with the scene. Yes, well, looking at the shadow on the house, the light is coming from above and slightly behind. I think probably he is lit more from the left side of the picture. So I'm not sure that completely agrees with the lighting of the scene. There's Teresa shopping. And again, these are model cars. And if you actually look at this, you can probably tell that this is a model and not a real car. And there's Teresa put into that scene we saw before. There's a black and white version of it without the guy sticking his head out of the Borden's truck. Oh, wait a minute. But there is a body sticking out of there, so that's a little unusual. Again, the shadows are going this way, so the light's from behind. You see edge light on Teresa, indicating that she and this person here are both lit from that direction, just like the rest of the scene. There's an interesting story there, I'm sure. Again, model cars sitting on a table with a real background, and Teresa's added herself in. Christmas card. This is Michael Paul Smith, added himself in. Holiday card. Here's someone's trying to save a crime victim on the streets here. This would be in the 1920s, based on the automobiles, or 30s, late 20s, early 30s. All models, people are added in, lighting matches the scene. And also watch the proportions, and that they are in the same perspective, that if you could draw a in perspective rectangle under them, indicating exactly what the plane is that they are sitting on, when this photograph of them was taken, it matches the perspective of the scene. There's a sad story behind that, I'm sure. This must be just before. I think he got hit by a model car. Somebody in the foreground. There's somebody up in the window there too. These are all models, 2 people added in. The story behind this is that this is a time traveler. This is his time machine, I guess. This is Back to the Future. If I had done this, I'd make those flames a little brighter, because even though it's a night scene, the flames should still be fairly bright because they give off their own light rather than muted. So I'd say these look like they were obviously stuck in. Fake newspaper. Again, that's a typography project, not a design lab project. All of this stuff in here are models that he built. So these are all 1/24th scale models. They love Halloween. And Martians. They like Martians too. I prefer things that look more realistic. And real buildings in the background, model cars, Teresa standing on a chair. I'm not sure if that's a real chair or if that's a model chair that she put herself on, but added into the picture. This has an artistic effect applied to it. There she is on her bicycle in the main street of Elgin Park. There she is at the beach again, down at the Superette. I've had students use this particular image. You know, you can put yourself into the inside or on the outside there. I haven't seen anything that was all that clever and interesting using that particular scene. I haven't seen a student use this one. That could be interesting. And there's someone inside the toy store. Everything is a model. There's a person added inside the toy store. Here's Teresa shopping for a new Corvair. It'll be about 1960. Here's a couple of people who have been partying too much down here at this bar, but all this stuff is models and they are just inserted into the scene. As a matter of fact, looks like the bar was added in because I don't see the neon sign here now. Used car dealer. Another street scene. There's the car dealership without the figures added in. This one works really well. Didn't have to worry about adding shadows for the figures because they're in the foreground. I would like to see something where you have to add shadows though. And of course it's black and white, and I would like to see color. There's the toy store without figures added. So there's a wide variety of, well, there's a wide variety of 1950s automobile images. That's the street Teresa was on. There's someone inside the model building, and there's Michael Paul Smith on the outside. Now this one with people added to the diner looks a lot more realistic than the previous one that I showed you. There, Teresa's having a problem with some sort of monster. Teresa at the little green house. This would be an acceptable image, although I'd rather see something where a shadow's added. The distressed version, not so much. Not looking for distressed images, looking for good quality images. Here she's added herself in front of the model car and used the actual shadow of the bicycle so that it looks realistically that she is on that street at the beach in color, something noir. That's that set. You can find photos under photos of my models or 1/24 scale snow if you're looking for a winter scene on Flickr. And I think I give you the links. Otherwise, search Michael Paul Smith or Elgin Park. And there are 486 photos in this group. Some of them where he's showing his models and his hand or his head are actually in the scene. These are not things that you would find useful. Or photos where he's showing how he does the setups. The night scenes he shot in his kitchen, the daytime scenes he takes his table out into the town and photographs his models with natural light. Here's the Tucker showroom. Here's a scene you saw earlier that had been converted to a watercolor. This is the actual photo version. And this is how it was photographed. He's got a piece of drywall that he's painted to look like pavement and laid out the models on it and then photographs it at a low angle so that it looks like it's actually part of that scene. This is not a photo project where you have to go out and photograph things other than you may want to photograph a scene that you want to put yourself into. You may want to photograph some of your friends and put them into it, or a dog or something, cat, elephant, but you don't have to try to be Michael Paul Smith, because I don't know if anybody would really want to devote their life to building an imaginary town like this. However, any of these images could be used for something interesting. I'm going to go back to this. 486 photos. Of those 486, at least 200 or 300 of them should be something you could actually use, where it looks like a realistic image. There are no hands or heads in it or bodies. So like this one here. There's the setup. And here it is with him actually between this and the background outside. So those are things that you could do. Again, there's 5 pages of these. I can show you some examples of surreal work that I've done. For example, this is what's known as a pastiche, an imitation of someone else's art. This is a pastiche of Rene Magritte's Empire of Light. I think that's in the collection of the Art Institute of Chicago, where you have a daytime sky and a nighttime scene in the foreground. I did this for a company that installs landscape lighting around homes, and I wanted to do a pastiche of Empire of Light for that. I'll show you later how that was actually done. This is a pastiche of Rene Magritte's Time Transfixed, where this is all done using photographs. Other than this is actually the clock from Rene Magritte's painting Time Transfixed. Everything else these are photographic elements that were put together. I like to do things with mirrors and illusions of spirits or spirit people or ghosts, phantoms. There's another one. There's a story behind that, but you'd be bored. Visiting an art gallery, there's a head popping out of the frame on the left. The art gallery visit. The painting that the person is looking at there is a digital painting that I did based on a dream in which my professors from my years as an undergrad were becoming grandfather's clocks in some cave. I don't know what it means, but I thought it'd make an interesting image. Again, I like to play with mirrors. This is a photograph of a crumbling wall, which isn't all that interesting, but the wooden frame that it's in was created in Photoshop. That's not really a frame. Here's Betty sticking her head through what's not really a frame. She's not really there either. She was put together from various pieces. I like to do self-portraits. This is a self-portrait where I am not holding a camera, and you can't see the camera in the self-portrait, even though I am reflected in the glass of the painting that isn't really there. Same with that one. You can see me a little better in that one. The woman in the rearview mirror on the left, that photograph was taken in 1968. The woman sitting in the car, that was taken in 1970. The car is a 1990 Dodge, so neither of those people were actually there. The car was not actually at that cemetery. That cemetery does not actually have a fence, and there was not actually a ghost standing at the fence. This gigantic toy soldier is not really in this cemetery. That one is a little too surreal. I'd rather you not do something like that unless you can do it really well. And most of the time, students just learning Photoshop can't achieve a surreal effect that looks like a good photograph. This doesn't actually quite look like a photograph. I think you can tell that seems more like a painting, even though it is done photographically.